Alright, I'm going to show you how to do European mount. First step might be the trickiest part, kill you a nice buck. Now that we got a nice buck down, the second step is the fun part. Just start ripping all the hide off, all the meat, get it down to the skull. So that's what I'll be doing now.
This is the hour, the darkest place. Dante's Inferno, the devil's maze. It's a good world gone bad.
Alright, now that step's over. It's not really that hard. It's a little time consuming because you gotta get a lot of that meat off, rip the bottom jaw off. There's no real rules to follow, just rip the hide off, get as much meat off as you can because it's going to help you when you go to boil it. But when you boil it, pressure wash it, it's going to knock all that off. So stay tuned. 2 tips. A sharp knife really helps. And when you go to cut the neck off, don't take a saw and go down through there and cut this off, because then you won't be able to hang it on the wall with the skull hooker, because that skull hooker sits in here and then the 2 mounts hold it underneath of it. That's how it hangs on the wall. But it's real easy with a knife. You just rip that back like I did and take your knife around there and it pops right off. That's what it should look like. Now boil it, degrease while we're boiling with some Dawn, pressure wash it, then let it sit with some peroxide and whiten up. Let it sit out in the sun. Alright, on to the next step after you get the hide and the meat off, is boiling your skull. And here's the setup. I have the water level right below the base of the antlers. That's about where you want it. I have a squirt bottle full of water to spray on the base of the antlers to help from discoloration. I have some Dawn dish soap to spray in there once it starts boiling to help degrease the skull. Got a little spoon right there to help move the boiling water over the top of the skull where it's sticking out. So I'll do that for about 30 minutes and check it, and if it looks good and the meat's all clumped up, I'll take it out into the yard and pressure wash it, and I'll keep repeating that process until I get all the meat and everything off, and then it'll be ready to be whitened. Water's heating up now. I went ahead and put the Dawn dish soap in. Put some on top of the skull there, and then squirt some around in the water. Meat looks like it's falling off now. It's been about a half hour, so I'm going to take it up out of here and take it over and pressure wash it. Blow some of that off because it's coming off pretty easy. So you can see that's all skull right there. That's the meat that peeled back. As you can see, the meat, everything's falling off. I'm just going to blow as much off as I can with the pressure washer, then stick it back in and get the rest off. Be careful around the nose and down here because those bones are really fragile. Other than that, just blast away. Another thing, you want to wear old clothes, because once you start blasting away at this, it will come back and hit you, and you will be wearing it all. This was after the first go round. As you can see, you got most of it off. There's still a little bit up on the skull, on top, a little bit in the nostril, cartilage in there, and then some stuck up in crevices in there, and then in the brain cavity. So you get most of it off the first go round. I mean, you could go through and just scrape the rest of this off with a little brush or some pliers and stuff and just pick away at it. What I'm going to do is stick it back in the boiling water and let it get a little bit longer and try to blast the rest of this off. And then after that, I'll just go through and clean the rest off with a knife or a brush. Just anything to get that off, and then it's ready to be whitened. It's pretty simple. There we go. A couple little pieces I'll go back through and scrape off with a knife. It's ready to be set in peroxide to whiten. So now I'm going to take some of these tools, pliers, brush and stuff, and go back through here and get some of the meat that I missed, and then it'll be ready to set into peroxide. So while I'm doing that, I've got this other skull boiling. Okay, on to the next step. So I boiled the skulls, I got the flesh and the meat off, and then after that I went back through and picked off some of the meat I couldn't get with the pressure washer. So now the next step is to let them sit into some peroxide for a couple days. Alright, on to the next step. Time to let it soak in some peroxide. So I just ran up to the store and got some hydrogen peroxide. I'm going to pour it into these 2 Tupperware containers and let it soak for a couple days. I got the skulls propped up by a piece of wood because I don't want your antlers to get down in the peroxide, because it will turn the antlers white. So you do not want that to happen. So as you can see, it kind of sticks up a little bit higher than this Tupperware. So what I'll do is I'll take a paper towel, dip it in the peroxide, and then wrap it on whatever is not down into the peroxide. And that'll help whiten it up. So that's the next step. Okay, so I just poured about 4 bottles of hydrogen peroxide into each one of these containers. But as you can see, there's still a little bit of skull sticking up and around where the antlers are. So now I'm going to go through with a paper towel and wet it, and then cover everything that's sticking up out. Alright, that part's done. All I did was take paper towel, got it wet in the peroxide, and then covered all the exposed skull without getting it on the antlers. So now I'll let that sit for a couple days, check on it each day, and then after that I'll take it out, let it dry in the sun. And then after a couple days in the sun, I'll paint some peroxide paste on it, and they'll be white as can be. Alright, they've been sitting in peroxide for a couple days. We haven't had any sunshine, so I just let them sit there and soak. But now we got some sunshine today, so I'm going to take them out and go let them dry out in the sun. I'm going to let them dry out in the sunshine for a day or two. As you can see, the skulls are pretty white right now. Very white, actually. But there's still a little bit of staining on the teeth, so there's one more step you can do to remove that staining. And that's what I'm about to show you right now. Alright, for this next step, what I did on my elk skull and a couple other skulls is the last step, I mixed these together and actually painted over the whole entire skull, which makes it even more whiter than what it is, but it's really white right now, so I'm just going to paint it on the teeth. But this is a powder, and this is a cream. It's kind of thin right now, so you mix in the powder to the cream to make it a little thicker, and then you just use a paintbrush and just paint it on and let it sit, and that's all you got to do. I'm just going to mix that up. Get it to where, that's the thickness I like, to where it just barely drips off of your brush. Makes it easier to work with. Then you just start painting it on. Made a little bit too much, so I went ahead and just painted a little bit all over the skull. Make sure you don't get it on the horns because it will turn it white, which I did, so now I gotta clean that up. A little bit of water.
A turn on the news, a sad state of affairs. Half the people dying while the rest of us are splitting hairs. It's a good world.
There you have it. I got it painted on there, that peroxide paste. I let it sit for a day. It'll dry up real quick, and then you just take a brush, some compressed air, and just blow it all off. Brush it off. And then it's another level of white. Alright, now that that paste is dried, just going to go back over with this brush and just scrape it off. Like so.
Good world gone bad.
Look how white that is. And that's what it looks like when it's done. Took most of the stain out of the teeth. Super white. Really easy to do. And there's your finished product. That's how you do a European mount. A way to do a European mount. There's a bunch of different ways, but that's the way I prefer. They turn out really, really white. If you guys want to know what it's on a skull hooker. They make different sizes you can put on the wall for small critters up to bigger animals like elk.